Ulduar will be easier than you think, and here's why.
So everyone and their dog is saying that Ulduar is going to be hard, and
Oh,
I'm
look
going to
at
say
that.
that Ulduar
That's the dog.
is only going to be hard if you have a peanut brain mindset towards a raid and managing your guild. Okay, fair enough, it's going to be hard in some ways, but overall, it's going to be so much easier than you think.
Ulduar is obviously not anywhere near Mythic Retail WoW, but I do think Ulduar is a massive step up in difficulty.
Now, the problem with the classic community is they have barely any patience and don't understand that as you get better gear, the easier the content becomes. Patience is a quality seriously undervalued in the classic WoW raiding community because we hyper-focus on clearing a raid in week 1.
Yeah, that's the thing. These guys, they were so impatient, they just cleared the whole raid in 78 minutes. Because they didn't want to deal with it, and they didn't want to see it anymore. Or just get it out of the way.
That's what we're used to. When in reality, if you spend 3 to 4 weeks progressing on a raid, that's pretty normal by the standards of modern MMO raiding. Yep. That's normal difficulty. Ulduar normal modes are definitely not going to be breaking guilds. Yes, the hard modes will be much more challenging, but if you're able to clear Ulduar on normal mode, it's going to be an absolute Chinese buffet of gear upgrades for your raid team, not to mention how 10-man mode is also available and much easier and provides a truckload of even more better gear upgrades. It provides better gear than 25, I still haven't mentioned how Heroic Plus dungeons will contain raid loot from the previous tier, and 10-mans from the previous tier will now contain 25-man loot. And even on top of that, 25-man mode will drop more loot. By the way guys, if you are looking to get ready for Ulduar, I do have a little cheeky, very fast gold making method on my subscriber only video. All you have to do is subscribe and you'll see it on my channel page. And if you're still leveling your character or trying to get some alts leveled up for Ulduar, you definitely want to be checking out the Rested XP leveling add-on. Rested XP just makes the leveling experience so smooth and so chill because it tells you exactly what to do. It tells you about secret quests that you can pick up for extra XP and tells you about graveyard and death skips to speed it up even more. And if you want 5% off, be sure to use my affiliate code down in the description. But anyway, let's carry on. When phase 2 drops, we're going to be able to hoover up many gear upgrades as a player, and the power spike of your raid will bump up dramatically. Yes, raiding Ulduar week 1 will be fairly challenging, especially if you're trying to get every single hard mode complete.
How the fuck does this shitty DK have this axe and I don't? This shitty fucking DK. And I'm sitting here with a blue main tanking all the water. This is ridiculous. I'm so fucking pissed.
But I guarantee after about 3 weeks, most guilds will have every boss and most of the hard modes completed, and therefore the raid totally on farm. Because even some of the hard modes themselves are really easy, to be honest, because they are just simple DPS checks.
Yeah,
and that's just totally normal. The difficulty of Ulduar is just going to feel like you're in a normal raid environment, especially for the retail player. If the content was difficult, it would take much longer to complete all of the hard modes, and the raid...
I actually think the main reason why it's not going to take people this long is because everybody knows exactly what to do. Every strategy for Ulduar has been min-maxed down to a T. And I can guarantee you, if you brought out Castle Nathria again, people would be able to clear it really fast. Like the Race to World First, if you had, they had to go back and do Castle Nathria again in like some fucking like hyperbolic time chamber or something, it would happen probably at least 2 or 3 days faster.
In its entirety. Now, I've been working on a video this week about some of the hardest raid bosses over many different MMOs in the industry. I know these are extreme examples, but these are real examples of real hard raid bosses and raids. I mean, some raids took over 650 wipes for the top guilds to actually defeat, or only 0.5% of the game's population completed a raid, or in some cases, you had to wait for the next expansion in order to be powerful enough to finish the raid. So that video we're releasing not much longer after this video, so be sure to check that one out. I guarantee that retail raiders, not even like mythic raiders, they're going to be sitting back and laughing at this Ulduar is hard narrative because it's nothing compared to the average Mythic raid on retail. The main reason why there's this perception that Ulduar will be difficult isn't because the raid itself is actually difficult. It's because a big part of a classic population are simply less skilled players. And this is because...
Thank you. He just fucking says it. Holy shit, let's listen to that one again.
That Ulduar will be difficult isn't because the raid itself is actually difficult. It's because a big part of a classic population are simply less skilled players. And
I cannot wait to read the comments on this video.
Because the game attracts a more casual audience. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, of course. But saying that Ulduar is hard because it's a difficult raid is simply, in my humble opinion, just not accurate.
I think Ulduar is definitely hard. It is much more of a hard raid than any of the raids that Classic has had before this, maybe except for Sunlow, depending on like what your guild is, etc. And the reason for that is it's hard compared to Nax. It's hard compared to Malagos. It's not hard objectively compared to Retail WoW, but compared to the previous Classic content, it's a massive step up in difficulty.
Because on average, Classic WoW players are less skilled raiders than Retail WoW raiders.
That's true.
Just because most guilds won't be able to complete the raid and all of the hard modes on week 1 does not mean that it's a difficult raid. In fact,
yeah, I feel like one thing about Classic WoW that feels good is the numbers that pop up on the screen, man. Whenever you get like an attack that crits and 2 of your auto attacks crit, and you see those 3 numbers pop up on the screen, it's like you just busted a nut on your monitor. It looks so good. I don't know why they changed that. It was so fucking good, man.
Just means, again, it's just a normal raid by Retail World of Warcraft standards. A more accurate thing to say would be Ulduar is a raid that is no longer easy. Yes, your casual dad guilds might take a while to get the raid completed, but because they're hoovering up so much gear in this phase, it's only a matter of time before they complete the content. If you really
they actually, I think that's also true too. Because all of the gear in Ulduar got buffed. My understanding was that it was only going to be the hard mode gear, but everything in Ulduar got buffed. Like back in the day, actually, I don't need to go through all the numbers. Basically, every single piece of loot got a +6. And the hard mode gear got even more than that. Like the hard mode gear got like a plus, it was like 239, and now it's 252. So that's like, what, 13 item levels? That's insane. So yeah, especially because people are able to farm the easier hard modes, and then they will be able to outgear the harder hard modes, which I think is totally good and totally fine. This is a good thing, because it gives people a sense of progression where they get more powerful every single week. That's MMO.
Wanting to experience a difficult version of
Doesn't mean it's going to be a joke, but it will be easier.
Servers. And people did much less DPS on private servers because there was a much smaller min-max theory crafting community. I mean, it's only a recent thing that Death Knights, for instance, have gone dual-wield rather than using a two-hander. In fact, I was looking back at some of my old footage from private servers, and I was doing about 8k DPS in full Ulduar gear with a two-handed weapon. And now I can do like 11 to 13,000 DPS with Phase 1 gear. And bearing those facts in mind, and also considering that private server...
To be fair, obviously this weapon here is a Seer's Edge. This is only a 232 weapon, and this comes from XT Deconstructor, 10-man hard mode, and these shoulders, of course, are also tier 7. So this is not full Ulduar gear.
Much more difficult. A lot of the private servers that I've played didn't see a dramatic player drop-off because the raid was too difficult. It just didn't happen. The only time where this really ever actually happened was playing Endless WoW, but that's a story for a different time.
Okay.
The point is, classes have now unleashed their true potential because of all the big brains that have come together and theory-crafted the class to do the maximum DPS. And also, these days, even casual guilds really go sweaty and min-max raid setups because now many raid teams are stacking DKs, Warlocks and Rogues and a few mages in there as well. The DPS that raid groups are doing now compared to private servers and the original Wrath of Lich King will be much higher, And I simply don't think that...
Well, you just have better players on the retail servers versus private servers. It's just that simple. And why do you have better players? Because the people that they're going to try harder. Like, there's more of an incentive to play and try harder on retail servers than private servers, because you can be recognized for being really good on a retail server. You can't really be recognized for being really good on a private server. That's why every single, pretty much as far as I know, every single speed run, the fastest speed run happened on a classic server. It didn't happen on a private server.
Tuning Blizzard have done to Ulduar will be enough to deter...
And you also have like way more people. So like, for example, if you invite, let's say, let me think of a way to put this. Like, if you take 10,000 people and then another group is 1,000 people, the odds are you are going to have higher highs in the group of 10,000 than the group of 1,000, because you just have more people to choose from.
The progress for the average guild. And again, this is totally fine. Classic is a different game to retail World of Warcraft, and it attracts a different audience. Classic shouldn't be as difficult as retail WoW, and I'm definitely not saying that either. I think the difficulty of Classic WoW is totally fine. They maybe should have buffed Phase 1 just a little bit, but even then, it's not massively important, because Phase 1 really is just a run-up phase.
Yeah.
Overall, I just think that people are getting their knickers in a twist about Ulduar. Ulduar won't be a hard raid. It's just not going to be a brain-dead snooze fest like Phase 1 raiding.
So it's going to be a hard raid.
It will likely be the perfect middle ground. Basically just your run-of-the-mill typical retail WoW raid without the mythic mode. Normal modes will be...
I would agree with that. I think that raids, like, difficulty in, like, WoW raids, I think after, like, somewhere around, like, Cataclysm to Wrath, actually made raids worse. Like, the games just, the raids just got too hard. They got too hard for the average player, and I think that they just lost a lot of people in translation there, and they stopped raiding and they stopped playing the game. Like, regardless of whether you can do it or not, like, I could do it, of course, right? I fucking play video games all day. But think about how many people, like, I know this happened with my mom, is like, she used to raid in Classic, she raided in BC, she raided in Nax, she didn't fucking do Ulduar. And then by the time Kata was out and Mists of Pandaria was out, she was not raiding at all. So that's just what happened. I mean, because the raids were just too fucking hard, man.
Just as difficult as normal mode and retail.
And
hard modes as difficult as heroic modes, with Yogg-Saron and Algalon being just a little bit of a level higher.
Yeah.
Now, my advice will be to not do what my old guild did when progressing on Maru. Don't force your raid to wipe over 100 times on one boss. If you're wiping and not particularly progressing on a boss, well, guess what? Your raid isn't skilled enough to defeat it. Therefore,
if I wiped 100 times on a boss in Classic WoW, I would delete the game. Like, I remember one time we wiped on, I think it was like Viscidus or something. We wiped one time, I wanted to quit WoW. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, guys. Like, this is, look, it was good. We had a good run, but I'm done. I'm tired of it. I want to move on with my life. I'm such a bitch.
Gear.
I know.
Be patient,
I'm
and
not
everything
sorry.
that Ulduar has to offer will be doable. Especially now, as in Phase 2, there's so many different avenues that you can take to get more gear, whereas in some world progression, you could only do the first few bosses to gear up your raid. And that is one of the reasons why Maru was so difficult, because mechanically, it's such a simple encounter. You just needed so much...
I guarantee you that shit. Let's watch how people die on this fight. Here we go.
...on one boss. If you're wiping and not particularly progressing on a boss, well, guess what? Your raid
that guy just killed him.
Isn't skilled enough to defeat it. Therefore, you're going to have to wait until you get more gear.
Oh, was that the tank?
To defeat it. Therefore, you're going to have to wait until you get more gear.
No, he's
fine. Be patient, and everything that Ulduar has to offer will be doable. Especially now, as in Phase 2, there's so many different avenues that you can take to get more gear, whereas in some world progression, you could only do the first few bosses to gear up your raid. And that is one of the reasons why Maru was so difficult, because mechanically it's such a simple encounter. You just needed so much AoE DPS to keep the ads in check. How are you going to increase your AoE DPS of your raid group without getting more gear?
You just, well, there's 4 warlocks in the raid. Just pump those numbers up. Pretty simple. I mean, I can see the problem is right there in front of me. I mean, come on.
Ulduar progression very simply will not have the same issues.
2 more warlocks.
Anyway, guys, may RNG Jesus favour you when it comes to loot drops. And to all my unholy Death Knight chads out there, do not reroll. Trust me, there's no need. Just before I jump off the video, guys, normally when you subscribe to a channel, you get absolutely nothing in return.
Yeah.
But on my channel, I have loads of subscriber-only exclusive videos and guides. All you have to do is subscribe, go to my channel page, and the subscriber-only video will be waiting for you. But anyway, guys,
I didn't even know you could do that. What the hell?
Ciao.
That's crazy. What the fuck? All right.
Failed franchises, bankruptcy.
So everyone out there,
Classic players don't know the phrase play better. Well, the thing is, like, how could a classic player ever play better if they mastered the game back then? They're already better than they could than retail players. So what's the, like, where do you go from there? This is a Meta Goblin video. We've watched a lot of them. I think it was absolutely fucking hilarious that he just went out and said that, and I think this is true, okay? Maybe I'm just being a dick and this is a little bit of recency bias. But guys, I think people that play Classic are worse on average than people that play retail. I think so. As somebody who raids on both retail and Classic, I absolutely feel that way. It's not even a question. I fucking agree. Yeah, it is what it is. The real reason Ulduar is hard for Classic community is because of the dreaded roster boss. No, it's the monitor boss, and half of the people in your raid team probably haven't beat it yet. Pretty tough on Warmane, still able to get cleared. We weren't getting TOC item level gear at the time. Yeah, I think TOC item level gear is going to work. Blizzard actually has a really good idea with this, and it's a very elegant and good solution. Because getting TOC item level gear will not only make Ulduar relevant longer, which is good in itself, but it will also act as a soft nerf to Ulduar. So it's like you're getting the 10 or 15% buff that you get out of ICC, but you get it from Ulduar and you earn it with gear. Raids got harder over time through retail, and Wrath is a solved problem at this point, so skill levels stagnate. Streamer is quite a mess during original progression. There are always people wanting to replace you at the first mistake, always. Yeah, but the thing is, they were bad too. Let's see here if there's any more comments that are interesting. I don't know. I personally don't remember anything in Ulduar being hard as Kale. Mind you, my guild never unlocked the extra boss. I mean, Kale Thoss was pretty hard back in the day. Sure. I mean, I would say so. Oh, here we go. Here we got somebody who's mad. Most Classic players are less skilled than retail raiders. Not necessarily in disagreement with this, but do you have evidence to support this? Yes. If you would like evidence, you can refer to my VOD from today, or you can refer to any of my previous VODs from previous days. That's just it. I don't necessarily disagree with this, but I disagree with this. As in, there's a high possibility it's true, but such sweeping statements ought to have some evidence to back them up. There's no evidence to it, okay? But, like, it's fucking true. Like, let's be real. Maybe there is, you know, some hidden fucking holy grail of Classic WoW players that have somehow figured out the game and can play it. Well, I haven't found them.